spanking is harmful to children. So I'm taking a direct quote from a Harvard study that says that preschool and school-age children and even adults who have been spanked are more likely to develop anxiety and depression disorders or have more difficulties engaging positively in schools and skills of regulation, which we know are necessary to be successful in educational settings. So it can actually get in the way of them learning and taking in knowledge and with their regulation, which their emotional regulation. This study is from the University of Texas at Austin. And this is by Elizabeth Gershoff, PhD, who's an associate professor of human development and family sciences at the University of Texas at Austin. And sadly, spanking by parents remains prevalent in the US and around the world. Common arguments parents use to defend their use of spanking. It works. I don't believe there are any downsides to spanking. Spanking is not hitting. It's certainly not abuse. It is normal and necessary part of parenting in my community or culture. I only spank occasionally, and I'm otherwise warm and responsive with my child. So, in rebuttal, what came up in this study, first of all, does spanking by parents improve children's behavior? And this is what they found. Spanking does not make children more compliant in the short term. Spanking is not linked with reductions in aggression or antisocial behavior. Spanking is not linked with long-term compliance or internalization of morals. So that's what spanking does not do. Does spanking by parents improve children's behavior? Instead, spanking is linked with worse, not better behavior in children. In meta-analysis, we found that spanking was associated with significantly more aggression and antisocial behavior problems. None of the studies showed a link between spanking and better behavior. None. Is spanking linked with unintended negative outcomes in childhood? Yes. These analyses showed that it is linked with mental health problems, difficult relationships with parents, lower self-esteem, lower academic performance. Is corporal punishment linked with unintended negative outcomes in adulthood? Yes. More mental health problems, more antisocial behavior, more positive attitudes about and use of corporal punishment with their own children. Cycle of violence from generation to generation, because make no mistake, spanking is violence. Are spanking and physical abuse connected? Spanking is hitting. Research has repeatedly found that the more parents spank, the greater the risk they will injure or abuse their children. The association between spanking and child outcomes is 2/3 the size of association between abusive or injurious hitting and the same outcomes. 75% of physical abuse cases in Canada started as corporal punishment to correct a perceived child misbehavior. 75%. Do they vary from country or culture? Common argument. Because rates of spanking vary across cultures, the effects of spanking will vary according to how normative it is. This is known as cultural normativeness. So, do the outcomes linked with corporal punishment vary by country or culture? In a study of mothers and their children in China, India, Italy, Kenya, Philippines, and Thailand, we found that spanking predicted higher aggression and more anxiety problems in children. Do they vary by the warmth of the parent? In a long-term study, 3,000 children in the US, it was found that spanking at age 3 increases children's aggressions from age 3 to 5 for all children. The warmth of the parents did not matter. In fact, it says that the more warm parents are, the better behaved they are. So loving and nurturing and being warm to your kids actually makes them behave better. The opposite is true for spanking. So, to summarize these arguments, spanking does not promote positive child behavior. Spanking increases the risk of a range of negative outcomes, including mental health problems, behavioral problems, and lower cognitive ability. Spanking is hitting does increase the chance of physical abuse. Spanking has been linked with the same negative outcomes for children across cultures and communities. Spanking has been linked with the same negative outcomes for children, regardless of how warm parents are with their children. Several organizations of professionals who work with children and families recommend that parents not spank their children, and some of these are American Academy of Pediatrics, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, American Professional Society on the Abuse of Children, National Association of Pediatric Nurse Practitioners. Abuse. We can call it spanking, we can sugarcoat it all we want. It is physical abuse. The UN has stated physical punishment of children is a form of violence inconsistent with the Convention of the Rights of the Child, and it is called on all countries that have ratified the convention to prohibit all forms of physical violence. In most countries in the world except the US, this is actually now been banned. So 49 countries have banned all physical punishment of children. I'm not going to go through every single country, but the US is not in there, and sadly, neither is Canada. It is still very normalized. Those two studies below to start you off, but spanking is harmful to children and it is abuse, period.